You're going to introduce me, Jinwei?
Yeah, there are two participants. Oh, four. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll just give it another couple of minutes as we wait for more people to join.
It's a good time of day to drink coffee.
Yeah.
Are we expecting a good crowd for today, Jingwen?
There's only several people emailed that they can't join. I hope there are a lot of people today.
It's a sunny, nice day out there. You know, and when we get nice sunny days in this province, especially this time of year, I like to get out and enjoy them for sure.
Yeah. We'll just wait for one more minute.
Okay, no worries. Turn my phone off.
Okay.
I know one of my clients can't join us today because of some efforts on our social media project with her has caused her to have more bookings for her service this afternoon. So she can't be with us. She's just sending a note to me right now. So
okay.
Yeah. And that's a really good thing. That's quite okay.
They have the recording. We will send it to all participants.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to kick off the first session for social media management programs with Shelley Bellefontaine. From Atlantic Online, the first three sessions are developed by Atlantic Online, Tourism Nova Scotia, and Digital Nova Scotia. During the first session and any following sessions, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. If you do have questions, please leave them in the question box below. And please note it, the webinar will be recorded and uploaded to the DigiPort website. Okay, now I will hand it over to Shelley.
Yeah, thank you, Jinwei. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Today, we're going to talk about how to showcase your excellence to the world and how specifically to position your brand for powerful social media. So, you know, social media, I'm actually going to turn off my video here and just pop over into my other slide. So excuse me for a sec. Okay. So we're thinking about social media. Let's start from a baseline here. What exactly is social media? But moreover, why is it important and why does it matter? You know, social media is simply not just limited to the commonly used tools like Facebook or Twitter. Social media is all encompassing. It is every online marketing tool that is used to connect your business to prospective customers who are also online. It is Facebook and it is Instagram and it is LinkedIn, you know, amongst others. But moreover, social media is what best represents our ideas and our thoughts and the information through the building of virtual networks. And it is within these virtual networks where we want to shine, right? And it's through these virtual networks where people can expand their horizons, where we can learn virtually anything about any place, business, and sometimes other people. And if you choose to position your business within the virtual network of social media, then my friend, I believe you'd be doing yourself and your customers a disservice if you did not present yourself appropriately. And that's what today's session is all about. Today's presentation is not going to be about how to use Facebook or which hashtag might resonate with your audience. I mean, all of that can come later. Today is all about the foundational stuff. Today, we're going to talk about how to build a strong business brand that will that will attract and appeal to your ideal customer, and how to build strength and clarity in your marketing messages so that you'll be in a position to clearly communicate the value of your business, the true essence and value of your business, wherever you like and on whatever virtual social media network that you so choose. Okay, so if we're ready. Today's webinar, we're going to kind of focus on 6, maybe a little more than 6 areas of focus, starting with the audience. It's really important that you have a clear understanding on who you serve and who do you want to serve. What characteristics sometimes define your perfect customer? And everyone does indeed have a perfect customer, but not everyone is your perfect customer. So there is no way, in my opinion, that a business, any business, can define everyone on the planet as being their perfect customer. So you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your business to clearly define who you want to do business with. And, your cortisol levels will thank you eventually, because it's actually been proven that there is a direct link between our happiness levels and the type of business interactions that we experience. So it's super important to align our efforts and our brand with the right people. In terms of the brand, we'll be talking about your brand position and how best to speak your value. And we don't always have the opportunity to first meet prospects in person, because if we did, of course, we'd always have our best suits on and our best smiles on. And our greeting would, of course, always be friendly, and we'd be able to communicate with people using both voice and visual clues. But none of that is possible when you virtually shake the hand of your prospects, which is why having the correct brand positioning statements is crucial to making that first best impression. So in this part of the webinar, I'll be showing you the 2 most effective brand positioning statements to use and how to construct them so that your brand voice will be succinct, clear, and impactful for all of those times and in all of those places where you cannot deliver in person. Then we're going to roll in and talk about your offer, what it is you deliver. Just what exactly is the service that you provide? Maybe you own a kayak rental company. Maybe you have a bed and breakfast. Do you offer, say, guided walking tours? Well, guess what? So do 14 other service providers in your neighborhood, and so do a plethora of other providers across the province. Even if you have something unique, you're still operating in a very competitive environment. And tourists are indeed starting to roll in. They're moving about. They're coming into the province again. And you know what? They are inundated with offers undoubtedly very, very similar to yours. So in this part of the webinar, we'll talk about the ways that you can augment your core offer, how you can up the game that will not only get the attention of new customers, but which really, in essence, will provide a fabulous experience for your visitor and for the traveler. And goodness knows, after the last few years, we all need that. Once we have a clear understanding of audience, brand, and the offer, then we're going to talk about how we can grow, how we can translate all of that into our social media position. And you have so much to offer, so much value to offer your next visitor. And once you have that solid understanding of who you're serving and the products and the services that will help set you apart from your competition, then you're going to be in an excellent position to begin outreach on social media. I've seen so many people just jump into social media without having any clear brand strategy, and they end up spinning their wheels. So in this part of the webinar, I'm going to share with you the strategy that I use to optimize social media posts from an organic position, and in a way that will help build desire for your audience. And we never ever use social to sell. And instead, we position our offers using language that our prospects understand in order to create the desire and want of your service. So that's how we'll be talking about the organic social outreach and those strategies that will work to achieve that. I think it's we cannot move forward with social media without talking about paid growth and paid outreach. So in addition to having like that solid foundation with organic social media outreach, I believe it's highly recommended that part of your advertising effort focus on using paid advertising campaigns within social media. And paid media will refer to like any external marketing effort that involves a paid placement, such as, pay-per-click advertising. It's using your branded content through display ads and on Facebook, throughout the Facebook ad engine as well. And in my opinion, it is my opinion actually that paid media is an essential component of revenue growth and brand awareness for any business that operates online. And it should be part of your overall marketing strategy. Now, that being said, I do encourage all of my clients to adopt a hybrid strategy. And that is a blended approach using both organic and paid advertising efforts. And it is a strategy, as I said, that I use with all of my clients because it helps them tell a brand story through social media, while it's also helping to extend the brand reach through paid advertising. Okay. So that's our agenda for today. And who am I? Well, my name is Shelley Bellefontaine, as Jingwen had mentioned. I am the lead digital architect here at Atlantic Online, Fairlead Marketing, Inc. It's a long one, so that's why I refer to myself from Atlantic Online. I operate this business actually out of Clare in Nova Scotia's southwest corner of the province. And it's from here that my team and I, my distributed team, and I serve clients in 5 countries. And the sectors that we are very fortunate to work with are within the global fisheries, industrial manufacturing, we have solar energy, tourism, small businesses, and not-for-profit agencies. I do believe in doing pro bono work because that helps to build community for sure. But I've been a web designer for a very, very long time, far longer than it's been cool to create websites, I think. And I'm still actively engaged in all things web design, but I tend to focus exclusively on working with organizations to develop their digital marketing growth strategies using both social media and other marketing technologies. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll give you my contact info at the end of the webinar. So know this first, that getting to know your audience is paramount. The primary reason that we seek to understand and know our audience is to gain insight into the unmet needs that exist. So just get your head around that for a sec. It is to identify the unmet needs that your prospects are experiencing. Because when we have a deep understanding of the challenges and the desires of our target audience, then we as service providers are in the perfect position then to offer our services that will translate into solutions for our audience. And when we can give our customers a unique experience that's catered to their wants and their needs and even their expectations, then we are then the hero that our customers seek. And we become the go-to resource quite often for repeat business. The very first thing that I do when I work with a new client, and it's critically important that we do a thorough assessment of the customer base, because the only reason we are in business is because of our customers. We know that if I didn't have my customers to serve, then doing the work that I do would be nothing more than a hobby. This is actually an exercise that I do for my own business twice a year because of the dynamic nature of my industry. Marketing tech is changing constantly, and I have to make sure that what I can do and what I know aligns with my customer base, and they change consistently as well. You, however, may not have to, as an operator within the tourism industry, may not have to go through this exercise more than once or once after a season, but I recommend this at least as an annual exercise, that you ask yourself these things in order to identify your customer. Who are they? I mean, it's so critical that you know who your customers are, what drives their purpose. Things to note when you're trying to figure out who your customer is or customers are, what their age is. Because how you speak to a person who's in their 50s is going to be very different than how you speak to somebody who's in their 20s or even their 80s. And they could all represent part of your demographic that you'd like to reach. Their income is also important because how you position your values is going to differ and be more attractive to people of various income levels. How you speak to somebody with a high school education versus a doctorate degree is going to be different as well, versus blue collar workers versus professional, engineers. How we relate to people is going to be very, very different, and we need to know who they are. And as you get to work with your people and as you get to know your clients, you're going to see some very common themes amongst all of them as well. And that's going to help you better align your services and your value towards your customer. Another question that I always ask when I go through this assessment is what? What are my customers wanting? What do they need today? Sometimes they don't know what they need, but they can clearly articulate what their challenges are. And they know what struggles they're having in their business, and they're able to convey that. And if I can align my service or a product that can help them, then that's all the better. In terms too of doing an analysis of who your customers are, you've got to figure out where they are. Where do they hang out? Like, where are they going to see your message? Is it going to be on LinkedIn? Is it going to be on Instagram? Do you have to dance on TikTok? Are they seeing your ads potentially at the grocery store? Who knows? You have to figure out who your customers are before you can figure out where they are. When you know where they are, then you'll be able to know how to position your messages on those particular platforms or venues that they frequent. And this is a big one in terms of when my customers are most active. In my perspective, this is when they are online. Since COVID, this has been very, very tricky because social ads that tend to follow like traditional 9 to 5 work schedules were completely blown out the window with COVID, as we know, because we are now in a distributed work environment scene. So there's unique research to balance here to figure out where people are now. In terms of the tourism industry, I think you're going to be fairly safe that your demographic is still seeing your content on the traditional platforms. But I know that prior to COVID, for instance, when I was positioning ads, I knew that I could have success in sales of women's cosmetics for a certain brand that I helped represent on Saturday mornings between 9 to 11. That's when I could reach a certain demographic. Now we have to open that up exponentially. So when you try to figure out who your customers are, what they are, and when they're online, you want to consider the current dynamics in play as well. Okay. We always look at why should our prospects do business with us? When you ask yourself that, that's going to help you understand what you can provide and will give you a better understanding of what their needs are. And when you understand that, when you understand what your customers' needs are and why they should do business with you, you will know, after all, your product or your service best, and you will then develop and have the confidence to deliver a solution to that client. So those are some really serious questions to ask when you're trying to determine who your customers are. And then that always leads into how you will reach your customers. Okay. How will you relate and talk to them? How are you going to deliver your service? Those are all very important facets to know, because then it will likely cause your clients to respond better to what you're offering. I'd like to introduce you to these people, these fictitious people. And if you need further proof as to why you should have a better appreciation of your audience and their needs, then I would like to introduce you to Freedom Fanny and to Dick, Jane, and DJ. These are all fictitious people, of course, but all of these individuals could be labeled as travelers who have a need for your service. For instance, they all need accommodations while they are away from home. Fanny, for instance, may delight in having an afternoon tea or a brandy served to her at bedtime, whereas DJ's family would probably benefit from like access to day passes at a local amusement park. They're all they all potentially come together like at the end of the day to enjoy your accommodations, but how you entice them to do so is by understanding their needs and presenting them with offers that they can't resist. Okay. So how do we define the ideal guest? Many people in business may be tempted to say that their ideal customer is anyone who will buy my products or services. Well, that simply does not apply to tourism operators. In fact, I don't know who that really applies to, because in reality, you cannot expect everyone to be a guest. And therefore, you simply cannot market to everyone. Marketing is not about who you can serve. Marketing is about who you can reach. And in order to reach your ideal guest or visitor, you have to know who they are. You have to know where they are, as all defined by that buyer persona. But positioning your marketing efforts for your business may require you to revisit your current buyer persona or create new ones from scratch. And it's important to develop these buyer personas so that you know exactly to whom you are marketing, which will allow you to create the content and the offerings that align with the members of the target audience you've identified. So to get started, write a thorough description of your perfect guest. Include their income level, how they're employed, what hobbies they like, what books they read, and so on, and go deep. You may even want to give your guest persona a name so that you can picture that person when you're writing your marketing materials. And every visitor has a desire that needs to be satisfied or a problem to overcome. Explore what that might be, okay? And then write it down. Most of us know that we need to do this, but it's not always easy. And part of the problem is that most people have a really hard time honing in on who their ideal client actually is. Just want to draw your attention to the workbook. How am I going to share that screen for the workbook? Let me just pop out of this for a sec. You were each, Xin Wang, everyone was provided a copy of the workbook,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, I sent them through email.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that very
No
much.
problem.
Okay, so I'm just going to share a new screen here. Very good. Can everyone see? I'm going to make it large screen. There. Can everyone see the workbook, brand development? Xin Wang, can you?
Yes, I can see it.
Fantastic. Thank you. I just want to, this is complimentary for everybody who's on this webinar today. It's my brand development workbook. I just customized it for tourism operators, but it's a standard template that I use for a lot of my clients when we're onboarding a new client. In it, we discuss who the ideal guest is. And then later on in the webinar, we'll be talking about the branding position and your offers. But for now, let's stick with part one, the ideal guest, and zip over to the example of an ideal guest that I've come up with. His name is Legal Bob. Legal Bob is 62 years old and is male gender with a current annual average salary of just over 6 figures. He is a retired lawyer with these lovely letters next to his name. He obviously has university and master's degree level education and is committed to lifelong learning. Well, how do I know all of that? And not every customer is this. That's the struggle that people experience when they try to document who their personas are. This is just a made up person. In actual fact, all of my pretend clients are, of this genre, if you will. So it was fairly easy for me to kind of categorize this. You'll also find very similar interests and hobbies amongst a lot of your guests, people who are attracted to the types of things that you are positioning your business to offer will share very similar interests, and you'll see this pattern develop over time. We know after speaking with some of them that Bob in particular likes, science and technology, fine cuisine, and so forth. Very community focused individual. I gathered all of that, fictitiously by having conversations with my guests. I know too that some of the goals that Bob may be experiencing are that he wants to experience more cultural attractions that were out of reach because, practicing as a lawyer, you're working those 16, 80-hour weeks and you don't have a chance to travel to 3 new countries every year and learn languages and so forth. But we know that he has some interesting leisurely activities focused on intellectual pursuits. Okay. But we also know too that he's struggling to adapt to retirement. We sense too from a lot of our crowd that visits us at our tourism establishment that, at the inns in particular, where you have a chance to have conversations with people, you'll see that you'll be able to pick out certain tones in the conversation that tell you about some of the challenges that they're having. Largely, the older demographic tends to have a struggle overcoming that technical divide that exists between generations, right? So as a result, they have some challenges related to their personal issues, their personal challenges. So this is just a little sample of an ideal guest persona that I've created to represent this fictional business. But it could very much look like what you could produce as well. And when you have this type of information, it's going to be that much easier to position your marketing messages when you know who you're speaking to. So this is a tool that I use. You'll see in the rest of the brand workbook that there are some empty pages for that as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this. I'll go back to my, oops. Fantastic. Let's go back to Bob. With respect to Bob too, I think it's important to note that once you have all of this information with him, that you're going to be in a safe position to assume a few things in terms of recommendations that you can make to the visitor, Bob, so that they can enjoy their stay with you. You're going to be, of course, an actively engaged innkeeper, and you'll be acutely aware as a result of local things that could be relevant for somebody like Bob or Mary or whomever. And in this instant, you might know that, for example, your local library is hosting like a wine and cheese event and a demo on how to access one of their digital catalogs that might be called Preparing Trendy French Cuisine in 3 Easy Steps. So let's pretend that's something that's actually happening in your neighborhood. Because you are a highly engaged innkeeper and you know what's happening in your area and in your own neighborhood, you're able then to position the right kinds of added offers to your audience. And that is because you know that Bob will, that this type of offer will resonate to someone like Bob, who is your average visitor. Okay. And it's really only through knowing the wants and, in Bob's case, some of his unmet needs that our prospectors are having, that we can really best position our products or our services, and largely our ability to accommodate in the purview of our customers. So they will appreciate the value that we can provide for sure. So again, print off the guidebook and use it at your leisure. And I think you'll find that it is helpful in helping you identify the particulars of your audience members. So let's move on to what your brand position is. So our brand is the representation of our business. And, it can take the shape of many forms. It is our logo, but it's not at all limited to our logo. It could be the colors that help identify us, but colors alone are not enough. It's how we are seen and how we behave in the public eye has far more to do with our brand than any taglines could convey. When defining your brand, it's really important that you ask yourself, how do you define what you do? What sets you apart from your competition? And who are your ideal customers? We've already talked about that. And how do you serve them? So, to clearly project what your brand is, tailor the right messaging to reflect the style of your business and speak appropriately to your customers and to your prospects. So, as a minimum, I recommend a vision statement and a value proposition statement. So, a vision statement is a single and clear statement of the preferred future of your business. Okay. It's not how you operated last year. It's not what you've done in the past week. It's how you want to see the future of your business. And you will find that as you envision what you want your business to be, that you will operate in a way that supports the larger vision now in the present. The value proposition statement is also very critical, and it's an excellent piece of marketing collateral that you can use anywhere. And it's basically the promise of the value that's going to be delivered. And it clearly articulates your competitive advantage, and it's the primary reason that a prospect should do business with you. There are a few other go-to marketing messages that I also use as well. So like defining your business brand is, highly beneficial for your guests. So really that's what we're doing this for, because they need to understand who you are, not just what services or products you sell. And clarifying your business identity will help potential guests get to know you and feel better about choosing to stay at your establishment. So, your messaging strategy is an important foundational component for everything that you do and say about your business. And it needs to be strong, or else your marketing efforts will simply lack the direction it deserves. Some other go-to marketing messages that you might wish to include are like slogans and taglines and social names, making sure that there's symmetry between your social names and your domain names as well, is always highly recommended. And I think today's business actually has an obligation to communicate your common purpose, to all of your clients and to the community at large. And marketing messages serve that intention. So let's just move forward and take a look at creating an effective vision and value proposition. So the vision statement itself is that clear single statement of the preferred future of your business. And here are a few guidelines that I always stick with when I create vision statements for my clients. It must be future oriented. It has to be aspirational. Like you really want to get somebody's attention and have them say, oh, when they read your vision statement. It has to clearly define the industry that you're working within, usually not longer than one sentence, and it has to fit your current position. Here's a couple of examples. Love this first one. I just absolutely love this one by Whole Food Supplier by Sweet Green. It is to inspire healthier communities by connecting people to real food. I mean, that is a powerful vision statement. American Express, not so much so. We work hard every day to make American Express the world's most respected brand. Well, guess what? So do I, and so do you. So I think this one was kind of vague. IKEA, to create a better everyday life for the many people. Yeah, I can get behind that for sure. I'm not as excited about that IKEA vision statement as I am from Whole Foods supplier. But I can get behind the IKEA vision statement. That resonates with me. Here's one that you might like to incorporate in your environment for your inn to provide the same level of comfort, privacy, and security our guests feel when they are in their own home. And I like that one. Okay. In terms of the value proposition, again, it is the promise of the value to be delivered. And it is your competitive advantage, and it's the primary reason a prospect should buy from you. If you refer back to the brand guidelines, there are some opportunities for you to note your value proposition and your vision statement in your brand workbook as well. When you're developing the value proposition for your business, there are a few things that you can use to qualify this value proposition. And you'll always want to focus on what the product or the service is that you're selling. Okay. In doing so, you want to focus heavily on the end benefit that your prospects will experience as a result of using your product or your service. And you only want to talk to your target customer in their language. Let me stop that for a sec. In their language. We spoke earlier about how we could have a service like an inn that could be appealing to, the 30-year-old business traveler versus the 65-year-old retired traveler. We know that. So you must ensure that all of your marketing collateral, your speech, your copy, the statements that you use are relevant to people in their demographic for sure. But consider as well that we have, in Canada, for example, many pockets throughout the Maritimes and throughout Quebec, obviously, who are part of the French-speaking population. And we would sincerely like to welcome people of all language. So if you have the opportunity to present your advertising or your marketing statements in their languages, I would say it's highly worth the effort to do so. You also then want to, when you're creating your value proposition, talk about yourselves in a really nice way about how your offer is unique and different. Okay. There is a structure to follow with respect to the value proposition. And no two value propositions will ever be the same, but the majority will have very similar elements to effectively convey the information to your customers. You must make sure that you have a very clear headline. This is usually like the main benefit that's being offered or the biggest problem that you're solving for your guests. You want to follow that with like a 2 to 4 paragraph, a sentence paragraph, including specific details of what you offer and like who's it for and what do you do and so forth. Don't be tempted, however, to overcrowd your message with endless lists of irrelevant details. And what I mean by that is, guests, for example, will assume that you will have an ironing board or at least an iron on the premises that they could use. You don't need to spell that out. Stick instead to like the really big sells. Say a romantic 18th century hotel built from a reclaimed mill alongside a beautiful canal. That will speak more strongly to your guest than finding out that you offer rollaway cots, right? And then bullet points are always recommended as well because we are visual readers as we skim through our content. Here is a fantastic example of a value proposition statement by a luxury hotel in New York City. So their headline is very attention grabbing: sophisticated luxury in the middle of New York City's premier neighborhood. Well, that has me, inspired to want to visit as well. The fact that they talk about the hotel's suites having unique finishes, but artwork by a particular artist. I don't know if you know who Harlan Miller is. He's actually, I don't know if he's still alive, to be honest, but an author who designed all of his book covers, beautiful artwork. So that to me is a draw to stay at this particular hotel. But then there are also other features and benefits that are listed in this value proposition statement that talk about the restaurants that are on site and then the rooftop bar. All of that paints a picture. All of that paints a scene for me that makes me want to certainly explore this further. Okay. So, oh, yes, the offer. Let's talk about this exactly. Back to the offer. So we know we have to identify who our target is, and then we know it's important to convey our brand position through those marketing statements that we just talked about. But what about your actual offer itself? So we recommend breaking it up into 2 tiers. Okay, and that's going to give you more marketing collateral to work with. The tier 1 level product or service or your offer is something that's normally priced at the lower spectrum than your core offer. And it's often like considered an add-on service. You remember earlier I said, Fanny, Freedom Fanny might enjoy brandy at nighttime. Okay, so other examples of this irresistible tier 1 offer could be champagne and strawberries waiting in their room when they arrive, bathrobes with bubble bath, an afternoon tea, picnic baskets to go, theater tickets, of course. All of those tier 1 deliverables are positioned as added benefit options for customers who want to choose your tourism operation. Now, don't mistake me, this should not be embedded into the cost of your core offer. This is a way of you having additional services that you could offer that the guest would pay for in advance, but it's also going to help set you apart from your competition if you offer these. And people don't mind paying a little extra for those types of conveniences in their room. And some of the questions that you might want to ask yourself when you're positioning your tier 1 offer would be like, how is this offer going to help the guest enjoy their stay with you? And you want to think about how the transformation will occur when your guests enjoy the benefits of this tier 1 service as well. Your second level of your offer is your tier 2 offer. And that's normally the core offer, and it's positioned at a higher price point than tier 1. It does indeed represent your primary service offer. And tier 2 is made irresistible, of course, by the transformation that it provides. So when you're promoting your core offer, you want to pair it with really strong visuals and the marketing messages that we developed earlier. So that's how you can wrap all of that together. And all of that will help to elevate your core offer to a new level of irresistibility. In the workbook as well, there is a section for you to elaborate on your core offer so that you can keep it all in place. If you just sit back to the core offer from the 60 Soho, you can see that their core offers are very well articulated with these bullet points, and also to the fact that there are 2 entertainment venues on site. So those are the main essence of their core offer, and I think it works super well. Okay. Excuse me for a sec. Need a drink. Throughout any effort, you must always ensure that you showcase your value. You want to consistently speak of your value across all of your social media platforms. You know where your clients are hanging out, then take your message and go there. Make sure that your value statements and your vision statements are used on your website, on social media. Make sure it's referenced in all of your print material. On radio and TV, if you're at all inclined to use traditional forms of media. I always add it to my email signature. You can add it to your link tree if you have too many things to add to your email signature, like I do. If I were to list all of my value statements and then my links to every social channel that I'm on, my email signature would be larger than my emails. So that's why I use Linktree, and you might want to consider that as well. make sure wherever and whatever you use that you have your position well represented. If you do not have Google My Business, then I strongly recommend that you get Google My Business. This demonstration, this webinar today doesn't talk about how to do that, but it's super easy to do. Simply Google My Business. Go through the steps to set up an account. It's super easy and it's free. Google will then validate your business address by sending you a postcard in the mail with a certain code. Then you log back into your GMB account and plunk in that code. And then, as they say in Britain, Bob's your uncle, and you're in business, and you're able then to start positioning your brand across that channel as well. Okay. So just a quick review. We've identified why it's so important to know who your audience is so that you in turn can target. We spoke about how you could define your brand position through the value of what you offer, and your offer as well is super critical to promote throughout your entire brand position. I'm going to talk now into organic promotion of social media. So we have the content developed, that we understand what our audience is and we know what our marketing statements are. So let's get it out there. And really, there are two primary ways to grow your position on social media: organically or by paid advertising. Now, while we might be tempted to jump into running paid Facebook ads in order to get our brand seen fast and furiously, I think it's prudent to first have a solid position on social media, and that is achieved by organic means. So allow me to explain the difference between growing organically versus through paid ads. With an organic growth strategy, we seek to maximize growth from within. And in the social media world, the within is defined as your existing number of followers. So the organic approach is defined as any social media activity that results in online growth without a paid promotion. So social media activity by your followers could be, for example, likes and shares. Each time a follower likes a post, then the Facebook algorithm flags that activity as meaningful and is likely to cross promote that post to your followers' followers. Have you ever seen in your social feeds liked by so-and-so? Well, that's organic social media growth at play, and it depends on using free social media tools to build and engage with an online following. So many ask, is organic social media worth it? Especially now when, the reach is being reduced time and time. But yes, I strongly believe that organic social media is worth it because it's going to help to boost your validity. When a user sees an advertisement on social media, okay, or when one of your prospects sees your sponsored Facebook ad in their timeline, their next step, if they like your ad, their next step will usually be to visit your whole social media profile. And if you don't have an organic social media strategy in place to augment those paid efforts, you're most likely lacking in the areas of followers and engagement. But moreover, you're lacking in the opportunity to tell a brand story. So somebody sees your ad in their timeline, they click on it, they want to go and see what you're all about and see some of the history of your posts. That's your opportunity right there to start telling your brand story. There are a few ways that we recommend that you can increase your reach on social media through organic measures, and that's to focus your efforts and your energies on the right places. So know where your clients are if they're on LinkedIn versus Instagram, and that's going to determine the type of content that you build as well, because how we speak to somebody on LinkedIn is very different than the visual platform of Instagram. You want to optimize all of your social media profiles. Remember those brand positioning statements we wrote some time ago? That has its place within your social media profile. Absolutely. And that allows you to keep your brand messaging consistent. I suggest posting evergreen content. Now, what exactly is evergreen content in this respect? let's say, for example, you do operate an inn, and you have a 3 posts per week schedule, which we're going to talk about. But every so often you might realize that the theater around the corner from your inn is showcasing an opera, and this opera might have some sort of story that you can relate to your audience, because your audience as well enjoys the theater and enjoys opera. So every so often you could pop into the theater's website and find out what they're doing for their activities, and then repost that in a nice, friendly storytelling way on your own channel. And that could be like evergreen content, because it could help you build a theme of relevant information that is useful for your audience, but not necessarily focused just on what your product or your service is. Okay. I suggest posting content that's organic during the slow hours. It'll eventually get picked up by Facebook, but it's likely that your audience may see it in a much more timelier fashion if you post during the slow hours. Posting the right types of content is critical, of course. We know those on LinkedIn, as I said, will have a different appetite for content versus other social media platforms. And make sure that you promote your profiles everywhere. So even something simple as your social media handle will be very, very beneficial. There's a certain post structure that I use with my organic posts, and that always starts with a title or a question. It's a nice way to get the attention of your prospect, especially if you know your audience well. And then the next part of the structure for the post is the body, where you talk a little bit more about the offer or the theme. I always include a call to action in my posts, and that could be comment below, share your experiences by commenting below, or to learn more about this opportunity, visit our website, that sort of thing. Hashtags are then included within the post. And at one time, Facebook did not like hashtags. Facebook has grown up a lot lately, thankfully, and now will categorize your content according to the hashtags that you use. So that's super helpful. I don't, however, put more than, say, this is such a subjective thing. I would say no more than 6 hashtags on a Facebook post. At one time, you could put up to like 18 and 30 hashtags in an Instagram post, but really it's just too much. Stick to what you want to be trending on and build a few of your own as well. Okay, and make sure too that you also have a very strong visual. Let's take a look at an example of an organic post structure. And I'm going to share with you one of my clients' environments as well. But I want to talk first about how I structure the social story when I start to build an organic social media position for a client. The work's already be done in terms of knowing who we're going to be speaking to, because we've done the audience review and we have our brand marketing statements in place and we know what our core offers are. So when I have all of that, when I have an understanding of the client, when I then develop like a social media calendar, if you will, that focuses on using content pillars. And pillars are a way to organize your brand story on social media. And a minimum structure that I recommend is a weekly 3 posts per week structure that focus on promoting content for each of those content pillars. In this case, my standard tends to be talking about the organization. That's an opportunity in that pillar to let your business personality shine. Okay, to talk, people want to know who they're doing business with. Social media is an excellent platform and an excellent way to put your best business face forward and present yourself. So an about pillar is critical, I think, to my reason for helping my clients be seen actively online. The other pillar that I like to have my clients focus on is the product or service. Of course, we want to use social media to promote what we have, but we can't do it in a salesy way. But there are ways that you can still promote yourself when you position it this way. Another very useful tool to include with your, or another useful approach to include with your content pillar, is ensuring reviews are stated, because nothing speaks more highly about your product or your service than the peers of your audience. And when they see that people like them have engaged with, liked, and loved what you've done for them or the services you offer, then that person reading that review is more likely to engage in your service. Okay. So one of my clients whom I've had the pleasure of working with operates her business on the eastern shore of Nova Scotia. And if you've not yet been down there, if you have not yet traveled along the number 7 highway, it's not as rocky as it was 20 years ago. I know, because I lived there, used to live there. And you want to visit the North Cove camping area, because their campground hugs the ocean. And from there, you can see the 100 wild islands that are just off the coast. And it's an absolutely amazing environment to be in, for sure. So I just want to pop over to the structure that we use for for North Cove camping. Sorry. Okay. When I build a calendar, again, I stick with the same post structure, and then I define the pillars. So on Wednesdays, we're doing what are people saying? And on Thursdays, we're going to do some service awareness posts. And on Saturday, we're going to talk a little bit more about what another service is for that organization. But why just Wednesday? Why just Thursday? And why just Saturday? Well, it's because those are the days that we've defined that resonate super well with their audience, because we've done the audience research. We know that on Thursday, people are starting to think about, gosh, what am I going to do for the weekend? So this is a way of broadcasting to the audience those services that are available. So it's a great way to talk about awareness and to use your existing collateral, like that which is on your website, to build additional content. On Fridays, the client always makes the effort rather, to be active on Facebook Live. So that's another way that the client can talk about and showcase all of the benefits that are there on site by actually doing a demonstration of and broadcasting it through Facebook Live. So that is the strategy that we've been able to employ for North Cove. So in their calendar, we always pre-populate. I always pre-populate. And I pre-populate because at least 1 month in advance, and I do that at least 1 month ahead of the posting date. I think it's really super important to do that well ahead of your release date for a couple of reasons. Because number one, it reduces my overall risk, okay, of not posting for a client. Like, my schedule could take take me away on a moment's notice, and I don't ever want to be in a position where I can't tell my client's story. But the other primary reason that I choose to pre-schedule social media posts is to position the overall brand story for my client. And it's much easier to tell a story and have each post flow into the next when you can create them all in one instance. So you can see here that the structure of this post includes the ad copy. Okay. And it also shows the relevant hashtags that I'll be using. The link back to the site is embedded within that call to action. And then, of course, the strong visual as well. I'd like to share with you Let me see if I can't go in. Let's take a look at how well that post actually performed. Okay, so we're looking at the admin section of the Norse Cove Campground Facebook page. And isn't that beautiful? It's just such a stunning place. All along the Eastern Shore, quite frankly, is quite lovely. We are very fortunate to live in this lovely province. So that post in particular was pushed out on the 6th of July. Yes, here it is. Okay. So you can see it follows the same post structure that we identified in the calendar. The callback to action points to their website, and these are the series of hashtags that we chose to use based on our research and knowing what our audience, where else our audience might be looking at content that's similar. And we also have this very strong visual that is actually taken from the Google My Business review that this came from. So it's a nice way to integrate all of our assets this way. You'll see at the very bottom, because I'm in admin view, this did really, really well. So this went out on the 6th, and so far has reached over 1,800 people. We've had 239 engagements, and this particular post is doing much better in terms of the distribution score. So I'm super happy with this. This was a great example of a post, of an organic post that has worked well. We can see that 98, myself and 98 others have engaged with this. So that contributes to the engagement score of 239. We might have only had 3 comments. We might have had 8 people sharing, but the combination of the comments and shares together with how many people liked, loved, or went wow at it contributed to this engagement score. And that overall has given us a high distribution score as well. The more people engage with your posts, the more it's going to be distributed and shared as well. And that's why we strategically position these organic posts to include these series of hashtags. And that is why we always include a call to action back to our site, because our audience wants to learn more. They're not just going to read this site and say, oh yeah, okay, this looks great, and mosey on. We don't want them to do that, which is why we always push them back to the website. Okay, wherever it might be. There you go. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay. Oops. Share my other screen. Okay. Another client that I would like to share with is we have, oh yes, the demographic organic reach on this particular client has been through the roof. Definitely have to share this with you. And this is a culmination of, let me find, let's see if I can find them in here. Just bear with me here. Which was in, there we go. Okay. This is a restaurant in Southwest Nova Scotia that engages heavily on social media within the last few months anyway. And you'll see that on their website. I'm actually going to just pop into their website. You'll see that they have, very attractive front end menu. But on their ad at the very top of the Facebook, on their Facebook page, their actual Facebook header is their actual brand positioning statement. So we're using this across social media and in this venue as well. If you just want to scroll down for a sec, this particular post has resonated quite well. It starts with, are you a seafood lover? Well, then you must visit this. Oh, really? That entices me to read more. Okay. And as doing so, the structure of their value proposition to me as a marketer becomes fairly evident. So I can skim through the bullet points, what their exact features are, their main dishes that they're most well known for. And then we have the promise of a beautiful sunset overlooking the bay, etc. And then we ask them as well, again, we kind of issue a challenge. If you're ready, come for a visit. The call to action is the menu. And then we use a variety of these highly converting, very popular seafood restaurants, seafood lover. Those hashtags resonate very well. we can see that this was just published, excuse me, when was this published? Yeah, just yesterday. So in one day, this organic post reached over 4,000 people and had over 400 engagements. This is a super example of how to use an organic post to reach your audience. Now, their audience, by the way, is only, what do they have? They have 3,400 people who have liked their page. So the fact that we're getting over 4,000 in reach in one day tells me that this has been well written, that this is beautifully presented, and that it's paired with a visually appealing part of the post. And this is what gets people's attention. So when I hear people say to me, you can't grow organically on social media because the audience is just not there, or Facebook's algorithm pushes organic posts down, I say, yeah, it is tough to do that. But at the same time, I have numbers like this that can show when you position yourself appropriately, you can achieve success using organic reach on social media. Just within the last month alone, our reach is up 53% from the previous month. We've had 56 page likes, and there have been no paid ads on this account at all. So it's all been through active social media, through organic active social media. Okay, let's go back to our. So don't give up on your engagement effort. Don't give up on social media if you feel that your engagement is low through your organic approach. Just take a step back and look at your audience and make sure you're speaking the right things and saying the right things to your audience, and then revisit restructuring how you're going to position your organic posts. And I think you'll find that you can improve on your organic position quite quickly. Now, leading into paid social media. When you have a strategy, you can easily achieve success on social media with respect to having a paid account. Paid social refers to anything that's on social media that is influenced by advertising dollars. So in other words, advertisements or sponsored posts that brands pay a social network to display to audiences beyond their followers would be, a paid type of campaign. So why should you engage in paid? Well, organic reach is plummeting. Okay, it does plummet. I know I just said you could have success with organic measures, but overall, Facebook is putting more emphasis on promoting content that's attached to a paid campaign. And as a result, paid social is now enabling us to break through these algorithms and to connect with audiences that are probably unlikely to have discovered us otherwise. And how do we measure? It's highly measurable, but how do we measure paid strategy? Well, at the ad level, we always focus on CPCs, which are the cost per clicks on the ad. And it's one of the most common methods of charging for this type of promotion. And like in the case of a video, measurement can be further reflected in the time spent watching the video in various increments. So when you have videos in your ads, the video watch time can become an extremely important measurement, because then you could retarget future ads back to those who watched part of the ad as well. Okay. So how do we structure and how do we plan an effective paid social media campaign? It always starts with an objective. What do you want to do? Do you want to raise awareness for your brand? Do you want to encourage Facebook to send your ad to people who will hit like to like your page? Or do you want to send people off to visit your website? That's really the three types of categories of objectives when wanting to run a paid social media campaign. And then you need to know your audience and you need to know them in detail. The most powerful thing about Facebook is the amount of data that it has collected on all of its profiles. So to be clear, when you run a Facebook ad, it will take the audience demographics that you define in your ad layout and shoot it off to those people who are best matches for it, or those who you have identified in the ad demographic. And because you know your audience in detail, you know that your service one is specific to women age 40 to 45 or 50 who live in a certain area. Facebook gives you that power to target, to do micro targeting. So it's super, super important to know your audience. When you get to the paid social media stage of your marketing strategy, you need to know exactly who you're speaking to. And of course, you want to pick the right social media platform. And it's between Facebook and Instagram. You can produce your ads and promote your ads across both channels, but you might want to just slightly alter the content depending on which platform you're choosing. Of course, decide who you're targeting, and that's back to the audience as well. And always make sure that the Facebook pixel has been installed and is living on your website. We don't have time in today's webinar to talk about that, but I believe I have that covered in my next webinar coming up next week or the week after, where we talk about how you can install that pixel on your website, why you should have it. And basically, Pixel keeps track of all of the activity that's flowing back and forth in terms of who and how long they've been on your site and who's engaging with your ads. So it's a nice way of keeping track of that activity. Choosing the best ad format is always important. I like to use the carousel ad when I have clients that have multiple services that are related to something. For example, my Nova Scotia vacation home client that we're going to talk about in a second has, a million or so. Well, no, she's got about 30 properties within the Eastern Shore and South Shore region that she manages and promotes on behalf of her clients. So naturally, having a carousel ad that points to all of her properties that are available for enjoyment is advisable. And of course, you have to create your content that's relevant to your campaign, and you can use something that's very similar to the organic post structure. And then, of course, you set the budget in place. Let us take a look then, please, for a moment at the Nova Scotia vacation home. I'd be happy to demonstrate an ad that was created for this person, of course, with their permission. Okay, hold on a sec while I share. Yes, okay. Okay, so where are we here? Campaign. Right. So within, here we go. This is the Nova Scotia vacation home client. And thank you, Holly, for allowing me to share this. And thank you earlier to Kim from North Cove as well for giving me permission to share this. So we're looking at their Facebook page. Gets pretty good engagement on their page. I just want to pop in. Let me move this here. Okay, pop into their Meta Business Suite. By the way, many of you may be experiencing some changes within the Facebook environment. They're pushing out new styles for pages now, and I'm actually liking these new changes. I use for my clients the Business Suite, which had one time been Business Manager. That's now integrated into one called Business Suite, and from there we can do all of our strategic content development and management of the content, but we can also look at the advertising engine that's in place as well. I always stick, when I'm focusing on my ads work, between Ads Manager and Ads Reporting. This is now a separate entity. So it's important that you toggle between the two, because once ads are complete from Ads Manager, they've run their course, then the reporting engine is moved over to Ads Manager. So let's take a look at an ad that we designed for Nova Scotia Vacation Home. And I'll just pop, excuse me. Okay. So we're going to look at the ads manager environment, and it can be a tricky, confusing environment, very similar in what each panel looks between ads, ad sets, and campaigns. So think of it this way. A campaign can have multiple ad sets or sets of ads associated with any type of targeted campaign. And then within that ad set, you can have multiple ads as well. In the case of this, we have multiple campaigns. When we click on the ad set, we'll see that we're only seeing the most recent. And then here is the ad itself. So I'll pop over to the actual ad and we'll take a look at just editing. When I said earlier, it's important to define who you're speaking with and what you want to say. And the ad type, this is the carousel reference that I had been mentioning. So you can see here that because this client has multiple properties, we want to promote each individually. Then we can have kind of like a bunch of ads nestled into the same ad. We can see that at the ad level, we can identify here, it's a carousel, excuse me. The ad creative that's relevant is presented here. We can always see a preview of what it's going to look like in the Facebook feed or in any other channel or platform within Facebook. And then here's where we identify all of this ad copy. That is what we see in the see more. So it's important to ensure that you embed your hashtags within your ad copy. I've had better success embedding hashtags within the ad copy in terms of engagement and reach than I have just keeping them only here at the bottom. So it's a nice way to integrate that extra reach potential by including your hashtags here. And we only know what to say in this ad because we know our audience well. And a lot of this copy is actually the marketing statement, copies from the marketing statements that were used. So it may have been like a dry subject in the beginning to think about our value proposition and our vision statements, but this is where they're used. And this is the value of having those marketing statements across this whole plethora of social media collateral. Really, this is where we would position all of that. Okay, right. So in terms of the types of strategies, we know that or the organic strategy works extremely well when it's done properly. When it's done properly is defined by making sure you know what you're saying and to whom you're speaking. We know too that there are numerous benefits to having a paid social media strategy in place. Whenever we want to increase our reach, whenever we want to go outside of our converted followers, then it's really important that you use the power of paid social media to like micro target new audiences. Always use visuals and copy that cater to them and to your objectives, and that will reach far more people than is possible with organic as well. That being said, we know the power of paid social. We know we can extend our reach, but I always recommend a hybrid strategy. I strongly, in fact, recommend adopting this hybrid approach when using your social media because it's going to help you advance your business all the more. I believe that an organic 3 post per week effort will definitely help you build your social media profile, and it will help you tell a story to anyone who's looking at your profile, especially if they choose to visit your social media profile after seeing a paid ad. I think it would be a lost opportunity if you depended entirely on paid promotion without having a series of posts that visitors can read through. And it's an opportunity for you to tell more of your brand story that really might be missed otherwise. Okay. Here's a few tips for using this hybrid approach. I strongly recommend using that organic approach to manage your reputation and your customer relationships. you can, quickly and easily reply to your consumers directly when they have issues. And that is going to boost confidence in your brand. That's going to say, look, I'm here on social, I'm listening, I hear what you might be saying, and I'm going to use this as an opportunity to respond. I can tell you that one of my clients lives on her Google My Business account and responds to customer queries and often comments, positive and some the odd negative one, but she's always there and she's always managing her community and communicating with them. So that's how you can use this hybrid approach through social or organic social to help manage your reputation, to be there to talk to your clients. And always listen to your audience. You can use that approach to listen and embrace the opportunity to acknowledge what they're saying. And it's your way to, not only acknowledge their experiences, but as a way for you to make improvements for sure. And then I suggest that you use paid campaigns to reinforce the value and the messaging that you release through your organic social. Okay. So, social marketing in general is super, super competitive. I'm actually, turn that down. We can play. I'm actually not going to play this video. It's really kind of lame, but I do want to just end by saying we operate in an extremely competitive landscape. And I think as a society, we're now inundated with like more volume of advertising than really at any other time in our history. When you think back to when you were kids, where did you hear or see ads? It was likely like during the television, maybe the supper hour news, right? As children, can we remember those ads? Likely not, as they would have been maybe targeted to an older, maybe news watching demographic. But how about those Saturday morning cartoons? Remember those ads for like Mattel and Barbie? Well, they're likely to have resonated with us. Well, that was the power of targeted advertising. The networks were confident that kids would encourage their parents to buy the latest toy fad after seeing it on TV. The makers of like Palmolive knew that Madge would convince housewives of the merits of using her dishwashing soap for softer hands when running those ads during the soap opera hour leading up to the supper hour. And it's no different today. Consumers can still be directed to products and services, but now the power is in your hands. The power to direct your advertising efforts using social media has never been as strong and as viable as it is today. You have the same, if not better, resources available to you today to engage with your audience, to speak in the language that they understand, and to convey your messages in a powerful way that resonates and relates to your audience. Once you sit back, you take some time to absorb today's discussion, and I apologize, I am long-winded, but once you sit back and think about this, I think you'll realize that you indeed do wield a great deal of power, especially when you pair that power with the power of adopting an organic and paid social media strategy. And when your brand is on point, when you know what you can say and to whom, then you're ready to build a highly strategic and impactful plan on social media. The power, my friend, is yours. That's it for me. Thank you. That concludes my presentation today. So I'm going to
Thank you so much, Shelley,
Oh,
for this wonderful presentation. Terry from Seaweed and Salt Farm commented, I just looked at my Google My Business and the app is no longer being used. It is now on Google Maps.
it could be. That's news to me.
Yeah.
That's news to me. Sorry, what was the point? The point was it's not called Google My Business. It's now called Google Apps.
Google My Business. The app is no longer being used. Actually, I don't know about that. Is this changing?
I knew very much. I'm going to look into that, but you know, my Google My Business, I believe, is still quite active. I promote to Google My Business on behalf of my clients quite regularly. So, but perhaps they, you know, a name change. I know Google Workspace has changed. They're always changing a name or something, but nonetheless, it's still quite a powerful tool.
Mhm. So if anyone has any questions, you can put in the question box. Yeah, we still have half an hour left. Shelley, I really like your idea of conducting thorough assessment of our audiences and writing down description of our customers, including education, professions, and professional challenge, life challenge. That is really helpful if you want to tailor your service or offerings to their needs.
Yeah, and we have to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like you suggest us to write vision statement. Yeah, that is helpful. And all the
Yeah, and it should really be an exercise that's done. In my case, it's done twice a year. I always review who my customers are. January, when I'm, you know, fresh from my vacation before I begin my new year, but I also do it mid-year as well, because that's where my year end is, and it's kind of makes sense to do an assessment at that point. And because of the nature of my business and my industry, things are changing, you know, exponentially at a very, very fast rate. As we just, you know, I can see too through the comments that Google My Business has indeed changed. Okay, so news to me from this morning. We'll be checking that out. And you know, Facebook merged Business Manager and Business Suite a few years ago, allowing people to not only share their one brand with themselves and operate, but to share with their staff and so forth, but to also offer more functionality by merging all of these brands. So we have to be receptive to the brands that we use to promote our business, again, always changing and migrating and moving forward. So it's a good thing. Yeah, for sure. We can't be intimidated by that. We can't stop learning, for sure. But back to your point, it's super critical to make sure that we understand who we're speaking to and what we're saying, because who our audience is going to determine largely what we're going to say and when. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Bella asked, there will be recordings sent to all of us each week. There's a lot to digest here. Thank you. Yes, I will. Yes, yes, I will send recordings to all participants so you can review it.
Yeah, I'd like to add as well that it's super important to, when you're defining your audience and your market position, it's super important to look at your competitors as well. We didn't really touch on this, but you need to have a solid understanding of your competitors' environment as you begin to build your own marketing statements, because obviously you want to be better than your competitor. There's nothing wrong with being competitive, for sure, but do so in a nice, respectful way. But it's important, I think, to assess your competitor's social media position as you want to assess how well you're doing as well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. I see somebody has noted that a carousel is a good idea. Super high recommend a carousel because of, and I use the carousel when I do Facebook ads for my business, because I offer social media and web design and e-commerce web design, you know, and a plethora of other things. They all point back to the same website, but each on their individual landing pages within my environment. And they're all broadcast and advertised and talked about on my Facebook page. So I can do that. I can have a carousel ad running that points people back to their respective place. And it has worked super well for my Nova Scotia home client content, because she's got like 30 vacation home rentals that she's managing for her clients. And it's a great way to kind of focus on the hot tubs of the week and backyards of the week and so forth. So it works super, super well. But if we did not know our audience, we wouldn't be able to have the confidence to do that. Yeah. Okay. It's called. Great. I see that there's a comment there that
Yeah.
you find Facebook Business Suite complicated. Oh gosh, yes. It's when first using the Facebook environment, whether it's the Business Manager or Business Suite. Oh gosh, yeah. That's why people tend to hire out and outsource, because it can be an intimidating environment and confusing is right. So take your time. Just take your time with it, and know too the Facebook has a lot of great educational resources on the Facebook platform through the metaverse. So not so much metaverse, but through Meta. So I'd recommend taking some time to explore what is available at the time before you jump into running any of your ads and so forth. Okay.
Yeah, just a reminder that our next webinar is on July 19th at 1 p.m. Yeah. And yeah, if you still have questions, you can ask, or after the webinar, you can reach out to Shelley or ask by email. We'll get it back to you.
I think that I think I'm presenting on your next webinar on the 19th. Am I not?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think
Yeah,
our topic that day is how to position your business for the power of Facebook advertising. Yeah, that's going to be a really good webinar, because we're going to talk about how to take that pixel and put it on your website and why. And we're going to look at the differences between and how to use the business suite as well. And I think we're going to be able to, when people go through this, they'll have a really good confidence level on how to like really use Business Manager for managing all of their, not only your organic stuff within Facebook, but also your paid ads as well. Yeah, for sure. And I think
great.
we're actually going to do a walkthrough of creating an ad as well for one of my clients. Yay.
Wow, that's nice.
That'll be fun and exciting.
Yeah.
Watch it all fail. It'll all fail that day.
I like the organic social media post you shared with us today. Yeah, about their Facebook account.
Yeah, you have to be active on social. You have to
Mhm.
be. And you don't have to post 6 times a day, and you don't have to be on every channel that's out there. I watch Twitter, but I don't have the time to engage every 20 minutes on Twitter. That's all I would be doing. I wouldn't be able to get my work done. So yeah, I think that organic approach is to be respected for sure, but we don't have to be everywhere. And just making sure that what you want to say aligns with your business goals and the structures that are in your business, then I think you'll find it will be like less of a burden to get in the habit of posting organically on social. So yeah.
If the participants don't have questions, we can end it today. And thank you again, Shelley, for these wonderful social media strategies. And thank you all for participating in our today's webinar. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jinwei. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Take care.
Bye.